John Ford during the 1930s. What a time. What a body of work. The best John Ford films of the 1930s encapsulate what it was about the early sound era which solidified actor-driven, line delivery narrative filmmaking into a distinct, respectable, admirable, holistic art form. Along with Michael Curtiz, John Ford's output throughout this decade appears to insurmountably influence how narrative films are made from that point onward. His choice of camera placement, of conveying his narrative spatially, emotionally, visually, John Ford delivered an intuitive blueprint for the effectiveness of narratives within the sound filmic medium. Let's take The Grand Mary of Scotland, a 1936 feature starring Katharine Hepburn and Frederick March. Let's discount historical accuracy for a moment. Mary of Scotland saw John Ford directing one of his great works of Catholic sympathizing. The screenplay, by the legendary Dudley Nichols, at this time The Hangman Comes Later, was adapted from a hit 1933 Broadway play penned by Maxwell Anderson. I am unaware as to whether Anderson's play depicted Mary as a brave Catholic martyr or as a deceitful accomplice to homicide, but obviously Ford's is the former. Ford also defied Graham Greene's revered Power and the Glory in order to compose a work that was more explicitly pro-Catholic in 1947's The Fugitive. The historiography surrounding Mary Stuart is complicated, and popularly she has either been depicted as a victim or a villain within very binary parameters. This film is really not an exception. So as I said, discount its potential as historical honesty and instead treat it as an auteur's highly considered treatment of a fictionalized subject. The two credited cinematographers, Joseph H. August and Jack Mackenzie, must be celebrated for their vivid summoning of expressionistic flair, colouring the psychological landscapes of Hepburn's Mary as dangerous and doomed. Hepburn's actual performance has been criticised as too gentle or soft in comparison to both the historical figure or even in just identifying her as a performer who is unable to match the alleged convictions of their character. I suspect that Ford would not have tolerated a performance he considered subpar, so I'm sooner inclined to believe that Ford deliberately directed Hepburn in this way, depicting Mary Stuart as idealistic, foolish, but of incomparable faith. It is true that Mary's talk, her dialogue, doesn't appear to match her demeanour, the performance. If we sooner interpret the film as presenting Mary Stuart as a tragic figure, unaware of the doom which results from her genetic circumstances, Hepburn has successfully delivered a potent psychological profile. Mary Stuart is privileged, naive, and brave. I quite love this film. I find it a joy to witness the period piece ferocity of its cast. I really enjoy Hepburn as Mary. I just find her reaction to her surroundings and circumstances to be so unique and fascinating, extremely watchable. I love the film's peculiar portrayals of Queen Elizabeth, of John Knox, and of the petty, apparently juvenile medieval English establishment. Charmingly entertaining. Beautiful black and white photography, powerful lead performances, a conviction of its purpose, the bravery of its protagonist and their unwavering faith, a purity of filmic craft and a holistic, all-encompassing spiritual disposition is what makes me love Ford's Mary of Scotland, as I do his The Informer, The Fugitive, and Seven Women, which I have commonly referred to as his holy trinity of Catholic texts. John Ford wholly attempted, I think, to create one of his works of theological insistence, a picture which exalts the virtues of Catholicism as he saw it. We could even potentially interpret films such as Flesh, Prisoner of Shark Island, or even Stagecoach as belonging to this particular philosophical approach of Ford's. Without being an explicitly religious filmmaker and not ever necessarily out to proselytize or propagandize, when he wasn't conscripted to anyway, Ford, I think, created old Hollywood's finest set of religious films, Move Over Cecil B. DeMille. In some ways, they may be the best films old Hollywood put out in general, certainly among that shelf.